Here he comes!
Welcome to the Scale Model Geek. I'm a huge fan of the 50s sci-fi movies where everything seemed to be affected by radiation. It was the atomic era, so everything seemed to be growing really big. I downloaded this 3D file of the spider from CG Trader, as well as these little figures which I printed up in 1/72nd scale. For this diorama, I want to have this huge mutant spider which is attacking these soldiers, and they're basically firing away and trying to escape and also trying to destroy it. Now off camera I gave it a base coat of this black and also painted some of the areas in white, gave it some spots, and at the joints I actually painted in white. With the figures I gave it some zenithal highlighting, and all this technique does is actually give me some shadows. Now for the areas that I painted white, I'm going to go over with this orange fire from Vallejo. And to make these brighter colours bright as possible, it's best to have a lighter colour undercoat, which is why I painted the areas white. Now I'm just going over the joints and also the spots on his back. And just to add a bit more highlight, I'm using some of this red. And the only reason I'm really doing this is just to add a bit more visual interest to the joints and also the spots. And you can see it's adding so much interest to the actual spider. And to break up all the blackness of the spider, I'm just using some of this green stuff, World Tropical Green. What this colour shift metal paint does is as you move from different directions looking at the actual spider, it actually changes colour. In this particular case it goes from a green to a blue. For the eyes I do the base coat in this off-white. With 8 legs in the way, it was a bit of a pain to get to the eyes that were located around the head, and there were quite a number of them. Now I'm using this clear red to go over those white areas. And to add a bit of a dot to the actual eyes, I'm using some of this flat yellow. Hindsight being 20/20, I probably should have painted them black and actually painted a slit rather than a yellow dot. And you can see how well the colour shift colour is showing up in this. Now I'm using some of this panel line accent colour, the black, just to go around the bottom of the eyes, just to define them a bit better. Now some of the blisters that it has on the lower body, I'm using some of this metallic grey from Tamiya. Or egg sacs, not sure what they are. And there you go, the spider's pretty much done. I'm really happy the way this turned out. Really nice colouring. Onto the military figures, and I'm just going to use some of this sand from Vallejo. And I'm just giving it a very light coat so I'll still have the shadows there. Now there was about a dozen figures that I actually printed up. Now to add some detail, I'm using some of this accent colour, the deep brown, and I'm just forcing that into the recessed areas of his outfit, or his uniform. And you can see there how it's flown into the recessed areas. Now to blend it all, I need to dry brush it with some of this light sand from Ammo. And that just unifies everything together. And for the weapons, some of this panel line accent colour in black from Tamiya. Now I wasn't trying to get the military colours to be super accurate, I just need to look like they were fighting in the desert. And there's all the colours blended, I just need to paint the boots later on. Now onto the base and my usual picture frames that I use. Now these are really cheap. They're only about $5 or $6 from Officeworks here in Australia. Now what I'm doing for the top of the base is just using some of this multi-purpose filler with a spatula. And then once I've spread it fairly evenly, I go in with this wet brush and give it a bit of a stipple. This stippling just leaves me a nice little texture in the actual surface. If you haven't already, smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. And just to break up the evenness of the terrain, I'm using some of this railway ballast to break it up. And I've got it in various sizes, which I just sprinkle on top of the still wet surface. And for some rocks in various sizes, this is just some kitty litter. And this is some lichen that I've had laying around in my stash for about 30 years now. I have no idea where I got it or what it's actually exactly called. I'm guessing it's called lichen, but if you know, let me know in the comments exactly what it is. And there's the terrain. Now I put that aside to dry, and while that's drying, I'm just adding a bit more detail to the surface. Now I designed these signs, these radiation warning signs, in Photoshop. All I've done is just printed it out on plain paper using my laser printer. I'm just using some Tamiya cement here, and all I'm doing is making the plastic go tacky, and that makes it a lot easier for me just to stick the piece of paper onto it. And once that's dry, all I need to then do is trim it. And my little sign. Now of course it needs some posts to keep it up. And these are just some I-beams that I found laying around my little plastic box, or box of plastics, and very carefully painted the rest of it black. Off camera, I actually added some rust as well. And back to the base once again, I'm using some of this sand and US Earth Yellow. Now the base colour is the US Earth Yellow. And once I get a nice even coat from that, I go in and mottle in a bit of a colour with that sand colour. And to unify everything, some of this light sand for the dry brushing. And after all that work, it's time to start putting it all together. Now off camera, just to the side there that you can't see, I've got a little pool of super glue, and I'm just dipping the soldiers into the super glue and straight onto the base. With the soldiers, I'm just creating a bit of a scene where some of them are staying back to actually fight and shoot at the spider, and the rest of them are running for the hills. Some are brave, some are stupid. You decide which one's the which. Let me know in the comments, if you saw this spider come over the hill, would you stick around? With the diorama completed, it was time to remove the protective tape. Probably the flattest diorama I've ever built, and I kind of like it actually. It's come up quite well. Really happy with that spider. I think it's time for the hero shots.